Calaroga Shark Media.
Busy one again. Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Trevor Noah has weighed in on the Riyadh Comedy Festival. There's a long pause at the top here. I thought about taking it out, but I want to leave it in to respect Trevor's pacing as he was performing this as part of a comedy set, and pacing, of course, helps inform the intent here. So I'm going to leave the long pause in. This is a lengthy clip, and there is, I think, one use of salty language here, but here's Trevor Noah.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. I'll start with this. Like, when you know what Saudi Arabia is all about, it's weird to go to a comedy festival that is paid for by Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? And this is what I mean. There's a difference. I'm all for going anywhere to perform for anyone, because there are people who live in countries that don't agree with what their countries are doing. So I don't assume that everybody who lives in a country is the same as the people running the country, right? That's the first thing. But when the government is paying you to come, that's like a direct relationship that's different. Does that make sense? It changes up. And I don't know, man, like Saudi Arabia, you're like, damn. You just do a cursory search. You don't even have to like dig deep. You don't have to go do your research, or just the things that Saudi Arabia does. You know what I mean? Like, you see all the comedians who went, like Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, Bill Burr, Louis C.K., like it was like a whole bunch, Aziz Ansari. You know what I mean? I'm friends with all of these guys. Like, I'm just like, but they went to Saudi, and I'm like, if you search Saudi, you see the things that happen there, right? Government is on some like almost dictator level shit, right? Like you say the wrong thing, you get disappeared in a moment. Like, it's just like 1 minute your family knows where you are, and then they don't. Women like don't have control over their own bodies. You know, free speech is limited. Violence is the order of the day. I don't know, man. I don't think I'd ever perform in Saudi Arabia. I would only perform in the United States. Because that would never happen here, Will. That would never happen here. Can you imagine what would happen if America announced that they were just did scooping people up and just disappearing them?
So out of that, he transitioned into a routine. I'm paraphrasing here, and at some point I can't just play the guy's entire act, but he transitioned into a bit that was some commentary about ICE. If you would like to hear the routine, I did share it in the Facebook group, which is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group, and you'll find it there. But I do want to flag that Trevor was both commenting on Riyadh and also making a larger point. He also made some headlines for a Charlie Kirk joke. Trevor Noah was tying his commentary about Riyadh to America's crackdown on free speech and the bad taste jokes after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Trevor said, "This is the same country where hundreds of people have been fired for saying anything about Charlie Kirk. This is the same country where people make jokes about Abraham Lincoln being shot, which I think ranks higher." Trevor pushed back on the insistence that nothing funny can ever be said about things. He said, "There's nothing funny about most things in our lives, nothing funny about death, nothing funny about life, nothing funny about struggling. The whole point of it is to find a moment of solace. Comedians don't have the latitude that leaders have. I've seen these comedians will tell a joke and people are like, 'Don't you dare.' And then the President of the United States literally said, 'Maybe I'll go for a third term.' Then people said Trump was joking, and Trevor said, 'Oh, so he can? President jokes? Yeah, comedian? No.' I would hope that we just learn to focus on not the thing that everyone's showing us, but the thing that's actually happening. Comedians are not going to make or break Saudi Arabia and what's happening there, but the thing that's making or breaking what comedians can or cannot say in America, that's a real thing that's happening." At a different point, Trevor Noah talked about growing up in South Africa and said you can't just say whatever you wanted. There was no stand-up comedy in South Africa because you'd go to jail. One of the first things you lose, funny enough, in an authoritarian regime is comedy. This crazy trend that you can follow throughout time. Go to Russia, South Africa. Noah told the crowd, "In a weird way, I almost feel like Saudi Arabia is moving in the right direction by allowing comedy shows." Now, I want to be fair to Trevor here. Again, I can't just endlessly play his clips, and I want you to understand there's a difference between John reading what Trevor Noah said and Trevor Noah actually performing the material as part of a complete set, okay? So just remember here, everything Trevor said was in context in a flowing set with the rhythm and the body language and the intonation. But I do want to, from a news standpoint, share that he did address Charlie Kirk. Trevor said, "Now you tested me. I mean, there's nothing funny about it. Don't say that, because then I'll be like, I'm sure there's something funny about it." Quoting Trevor Noah here, "The guy was shot while defending guns. Do you understand? I'm not even writing that as a joke. As a human, you have to admit that's an incongruous, funny thing that happened. That would be like if the captain of the Titanic was given an impassioned speech about icebergs right before it happened." Trevor was clear. "I don't think there's anything funny about Kirk's death." But that's literally what comedians do. That's the whole point of it. There's nothing funny about most things in our lives, nothing funny about death, nothing funny about life, nothing funny about struggling. Nope. The whole point of it is to find a moment of solace. It's pretty crazy that America's response to the guy getting shot was to limit speech instead of limiting the thing that ended his life. What happened to Charlie Kirk? He got shot? All right, tell people to shut up. We got to get some word control out in these streets. Let me tell you something. Jokes will never kill you. Never. Again, the entire set is shared in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. My apologies to Trevor Noah for me butchering his material, and my intention was not to take any of it out of context. Hopefully I did that story correctly. The Human Rights Watch has posted, they wrote, during an October 6th appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Aziz Ansari said that part of the fee from the festival should go to support causes that support free press and human rights, and that he shares the concerns that people have brought up. He named Reporters Without Borders and Human Rights Watch. Jessica Curson, another comedian who performed at the festival, said she was donating her entire performance fee to a human rights organization. Human Rights Watch is unable to accept the donation. They add, the Riyadh Comedy Festival is part of the Saudi government strategy to whitewash its poor human rights record, and participating comedians have a responsibility to avoid laundering the government's reputation. On September 19th, Human Rights Watch wrote to the representatives and management of a group of announced participating comedians to request a meeting about Saudi Arabia's human rights crisis. The representatives and management did not reply. Cap tip to Jason Zinneman for sharing that in his Threads feed, which is how I saw it. Bill Burr continues to get a lot of negative reaction to his defensive stance or defiant stance, however you want to look at that, but Burr not having a good week. Jason Zinneman in the New York Times wrote, if the comics use their sets or even their interviews back home to look squarely at the critique of the Saudi government, that would be one thing, but I see zero evidence that they're defending or even showing respect for actual dissent. Skipping ahead, Zinneman writes, Burr, Louis C.K., and Ansari are arguing for the impact of comedians and the power of jokes, but that's precisely the opposite lesson to take away from the comedian Tim Dillon's experience with the festival. When he criticized the Saudi government weeks before the event, he was disinvited. The comics who remained on the bill were paid not just to perform, but also to shut up about certain topics, and they complied. Jason Zinneman in the New York Times points out, imagine if similar conditions were put on comics in this country. What if a stand-up was told they couldn't mock the president at the White House Correspondents Association dinner? They wouldn't perform. Or what if Andrew Schultz, who performed in Saudi Arabia, was told by an American producer that he couldn't insult the government? He would surely exploit this by presenting himself as the victim of cancel culture. In The Guardian again, Jonathan Liu this time writes, how much of this laughter truly escapes the walls of the theater, beyond the brightly lit plazas of Boulevard City, into the degradation and exploitation behind? What kind of social transformation is possible when only a privileged few are in on the joke? The American comedian Sinbad once famously observed that comedians are funnier when they're riding the bus. And perhaps Saudi Arabia and its hired entertainers are laboring under a kind of convenient delusion. The naivete of the Saudi government in imagining that comedy can whitewash its many crimes is matched only by the naivete of the comedians, some of whom genuinely believe their presence is kind of a cultural bridge, a force for a positive change. Of course, art can change minds, change worlds, but only if the will to do so truly exists. Or, as a world-renowned stand-up comic almost put it, I stand up for your right to do stand-up comedy in a medieval autocracy. But please know that you're wrong. You're living in a fantasy land, and after you leave, nothing happens. So you know, stop being an effing child. So I'll ask you, has anyone actually hurt their career doing the Riyadh Comedy Festival? Forbes published this on October 8th. Drinking Manhattans with comedian Sebastian Maniscalco. Here's the top paragraphs. On stage, the comedian will make fun of your table manners, wardrobe, and the way you're raising your kids, but meeting him in person, he just wants you to be yourself. The judgment comes later. Between his successful comedy specials, a sold-out 5-night run at Madison Square Garden, and having Robert De Niro as his co-star in his first major film, Sebastian Maniscalco has become one of today's biggest comedians. He recently completed an 8-show residency at the Ocean City Resort in Atlantic City, where he brought his observations about growing up in an Italian family, people's manners, and life as a father to Ovation Hall. I met with Maniscalco at the hotel's Italian restaurant Linguini by the Sea. We're over some great Manhattans, as well as homemade meatballs, eggplant rollatini, and chicken marsala from Chiefy and Wilson. We discussed his favorite drink, why he's much more social than he seems on stage, and how Jerry Seinfeld taught him the best way to end a meal. So that's where we are. That came out on October 8th. Today's October 10th. So it doesn't seem like Forbes is too upset with Sebastian Maniscalco. I'm sure he'll continue to sell plenty of tickets. And to be fair, I'm going to cover that article that I just skimmed. I'm going to do it next week. I'm just as bad. I took a second to think about this. What am I to do? Am I to take a moral stand and say, you know what? Sebastian Maniscalco, he's dead to this program. I'm never going to mention him again. And am I never going to mention Burr and Chappelle? And so, like, I don't know. I'm just as bad. Or do I pick my spots and I only do negative Sebastian Maniscalco, negative CK, negative Bill Burr? And I don't tell you if they do anything fun or interesting or non-controversial? So I might just be as bad as the Forbes article. I don't know. But back to my question. Has this actually hurt anyone's career? The San Francisco Chronicle reports Louis C.K. has sold out his show December 9th at the Masonic Theater. It's part of his ridiculous world tour. In a recent email to fans, C.K. described the tour as a gargantuan amount of shows with more than 75 dates. I bet they'll mostly sell out, if not completely sell out. Did C.K. hurt his career going to Riyadh? I don't think so. Perhaps related, perhaps not, probably not, because Kevin Hart often cancels gigs for various reasons. He'll pick up other work. But Saturday night's Kevin Hart show at the Santa Ynez Chumash Casino Resort Samala showroom has been canceled with no further details provided. Hart's team released an official statement simply stating the tickets would be refunded from point of purchase. So usually those get rescheduled. This is a cancel. Again, it might just be somebody offered him a movie or he's got a cold. I don't know. Just sharing because it's interesting. Let me catch my breath here for a second. This show has been going hard. And I want to make this about me. The show's been going hard, right? If we go back to Kimmelgate and all the bonus episodes and all this Riyadh stuff, the show's been going hard. I'm having more fun doing this the last 3 weeks than I've had the entire run. I think the shows have been strong. The numbers are up by a full third. People are sticking around. New listeners, appreciate you. Hope you continue to stick around. The reason I'm sharing all this, especially for the new people, I pre-taped this weekend. So if you listen Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, and you're like, how come he's not talking about blah, blah, blah? Sometimes I tape the weekend. I'm spending some time with my family this weekend. So to accommodate my schedule, I tape the weekend. I had all these extra stories. That's what happens. You know, you think you're going to do one thing. Every day I bounce stuff, and I'll often pre-tape the weekends. I have not pre-taped the weekends the last few weeks. In fact, I've been doing them almost in real time, which is not normally how I produce the show. But I'm just sharing. So the people have been around for 7 years. You get it. You know how the weekend shows go. But in case you're relatively new and you're like, I thought this show was really good. Today seems a little lesser. Are the shows a little lesser? Yeah, they probably are. They're not bad, but they're not like today's show. I'm throwing nothing but fastballs, right? The weekend shows are just more like, hey, this comedian is doing this comedian's doing that. And then I'll jump back in Tuesday and we'll go hard. So just want to tell you all that because I did pre-tape the weekend earlier in the week when I had a minute. Let's do the late night jokes today. The government shutdown, the topic. Jimmy Fallon said, we're almost a week into the government shutdown and airports across the country are already starting to report a shortage of air traffic controllers. Now pilots are chased with the choice of waiting in a long line or using the self-checkout tarmac. I like that joke. Jimmy Kimmel, soon when we fly, we'll have the same number of air traffic controllers the Wright brothers had. Back to Fallon. And if you want to know how long 8 days of a shutdown is, just think 8 days ago, we had no idea what kind of tree Travis Kelce was like. Kimmel was at a screen time event. He said the night he returned, he did not script his monologue. It was something that really had to come from inside me and had to be truthful. And I had to lay it all out there and to be honest with what I was feeling. He said he would not invite FCC chairperson Carr on the show, but he would ask Donald Trump to be a guest. Kimmel said low ratings for the shows that air before his have cut into his viewership. The availability of clips on YouTube has also hurt. He does not believe that shows like his and Colbert's are losing tens of millions of dollars. He says those numbers don't include other revenues the shows generate, such as fees from local stations. David Letterman. Now, originally today, so this is an example of me bumping stuff. Today is 10/10, and I've been sitting on this story that Vulture did, the oral history of the top 10 list. Top 10 has a 10 in it. I'm like, oh, I'll do that on 10/10. We're almost nearly 20 minutes in today's show. I don't have time to do the top 10 list. So that's an example of something that someday will become weekend filler. So for the new people, that's what weekend filler is. Like, so if I were to come on tomorrow, it's not in tomorrow's show, but some weekend and you're like, oh, David Letterman, top 10 list. This is fun. That's what you get on the weekend. Timely David Letterman news. He will induct Warren Zevon into the Rock Hall of Fame. Zevon passed away in 2002, was a recurring guest on The Late Show. Mark Maron on his Thursday podcast said that was the last one recorded in the garage, that Monday's show, which is the final episode, is not recorded in the garage. So at some point, we're going to hear there was a big shiny guest on Monday's show. Robin Williams' daughter, Zelda, has asked fans to chill out with the AI stuff. She asked people to stop sending me AI videos of Dad Robin Williams. Stop believing I want to see it or that I'll understand. I don't, and I won't. If you're just trying to troll me, I've seen way worse. I'll restrict and move on, but please, if you've got any decency, just stop doing this to him and me and everyone. Full stop. It's dumb. It's a waste of time and energy, and believe me, it's not what he'd want. Zelda Williams continued to watch the legacies of real people be condensed down to this vaguely looks and sounds like them, so that's enough, just so other people can churn out horrible TikTok slop, is maddening. You're not making art. You're making disgusting, over-processed hot dogs out of the lives of human beings. I actually saw a clip, one of Martin Luther King Jr.'s descendants, it might have been one of his kids, it may have been the next generation, tagged on to the Zelda Williams conversation. It was like, can you just stop? And in that, there was an image shared of what sort of kind of looked like MLK Jr. at a UFC event. So yeah, just stop. Zelda said, you're not making art, you're making disgusting, over-processed hot dogs out of the lives of human beings, out of the history of art and music, and then shoving them down someone else's throat, hoping they'll give you a little thumbs up and like it. Gross.
Comedy stock market.
Every Friday, we take a look at the comedians. We buy some stock and we sell some stock, and I make some recommendations. And honestly, I almost didn't do the segment this week because it's been such an angsty period, and I wish I had some buy recommendations for you, but I just don't this week. So here are my sells. Aziz Ansari, let's get the hell out. Did you watch the Kimmel piece? I'm not buying an Aziz, and if you listen to the show, I don't like Aziz to begin with. I have my issues with Aziz. Sell Aziz Ansari. Bill Burr, he's just digging himself a hole, and the hole's getting bigger and bigger. So let's sell our Bill Burr. And I think we got to sell a little on Conan O'Brien. I know St. Conan has had a great year, but I feel like once the Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend episode gets out from behind the paywall and more people hear it, I'm seeing some conversation on Reddit that Conan sort of let Burr off the hook there, and I think Conan gets some slap back. So let's sell a little Conan stock. Not all of it, but a little. Let's also sell Cam Patterson. Now, this is probably unfair, but based on the one appearance on SNL, I'm like, I feel like he's going to be one and done. So let's sell Cam Patterson stock. And we are trying conceptually to make money here. Let's sell high on Maron. We're at peak Maron, and you always sell high and buy low. This is as high as Maron's going to get into this Monday episode. So let's cash out on Mark Maron. Good luck to you, sir. Thank you for all your service. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your podcast. But we're here to make hypothetical money. Let's sell high on Mark Maron, sell Bill Burr, sell Little Conan, sell Cam Patterson, and sell the hell out of Aziz Ansari. And that's your comedy stock market. I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. All right, let's do Gossip Corner. Caitlin Clark hanging out with Adam Sandler, the great dramatic actor, was in town. Adam Sandler posted on, what is this? Well, this is Twitter. Sandler posted, Indiana, holy cow, great Monday hang. Can't wait for the next one. Seen there with Caitlin Clark. Taylor Swift was spotted out for dinner on Tuesday night. She was there with her longtime friend, comedian Gerard Carmichael. Gerard Carmichael and Taylor Swift are longtime friends. Did everyone else know this? I didn't know this. Anyway, that's who she went to dinner with, okay? Tonight, Jimmy Fallon is airing the extended cut of Taylor Swift's Tonight Show appearance from earlier in the week. It is called The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Taylor Swift, extended cut. Now, Taylor also went on Seth Meyers' show for some reason. And for those of you that think I'm unfair to Seth Meyers, my premise is nobody cares. Here's the degree to which nobody cares, okay? Seth Meyers had on Taylor Swift. And I went on LateNighter.com. They didn't even cover it. Seth Meyers had Taylor Swift, and Late Nighter didn't even bother to mention it on Thursday when I looked. Here, I'm going to look again. It's 4:22 p.m. Eastern. I'm typing in LateNighter.com, and I love the site. I source it almost every single day. It's fantastic. I'm on the main page. Features. SNL's 50 greatest episodes as voted by fans. 1 hour ago, suddenly Jim Downey's everywhere. News. Kimmel turns Trump's war zone talk into a viral challenge. News. Watch Jimmy Kimmel talk Disney. News. Taylor Swift's Tonight Show visit expands with extended cut airing Friday. News, Arsenio Hall, Reddy's new memoir. News, David Letterman to induct Warren Zevon. News, Amy Poehler. Oh yeah, Amy Poehler is hosting SNL. We'll get to that eventually on Tuesday. Features, SNL Screen Time Report. News, Antenna TV plans Tonight Show party for Johnny Carson's 100th birthday. None of that is Seth Meyers, who had Taylor Swift. Why did she do late night with Seth Meyers? Why? I don't understand. Luckily, people apparently stayed up late or taped it or whatever they did. Seth said to Taylor Swift, "Congratulations on your engagement. There are two things I'm worried about on your behalf." Taylor Swift said, "Only two?" Seth said, "I think you've got everything else under control. I'm worried about the invitations, just the invitations alone, because I feel like everybody, has an expectation that you're going to put a lot of thought into it. And I feel like I just give you permission to send an evite." I'm exhausted. Check the runtime on this episode. What can I not bump? I cannot bump that this weekend it's the Because They're Funny DC Comedy Festival. It's back for its third year at the Wharf. This year's lineup features Samore and Jay Farrow. There'll also be the Breakout Comedian of the Year competition hosted by Jay Farrow. National finalists compete for a $10,000 grand prize and a shot at Hollywood representation. And that is your comedy news for today. All right, Johnny Mac's taking a couple days off. There'll be shows in your feed, and we'll jump back in live on Tuesday. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Clifford. Clifford became a new supporter of the show. Appreciate you, Clifford, who wrote, "You're doing a great job. Your listeners love your content. Keep it going." Thank you. And thanks for everybody who buys me a coffee or is in the $2 club. You can check all that stuff out on buymeacoffee.com. My voice is shot. I'm out of energy. It's the weekend. Have a good one.